So I've tried the affirmations, I've tried the journaling, tried the meditations. I do that all the freaking time. And I've definitely tried visualization. And while these things are all awesome, it's still not getting me anywhere. No matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, I can't seem to manifest anything into my reality that I really desire. I can't seem to reach a state of health that I'm looking for, reach a state of well-being that I'm looking for. And I actually kind of feel lost and hopeless. I don't know what to do next. Like if you've ever been here, and you've done all the practices to work on your mind, your mindset, and it doesn't seem to be getting you anywhere, stick with me, because in today's video, I want to share with you rewiring the mind versus rewiring your nervous system, and that missing link behind these practices and how they can get you to where you want to be.
So the rope touches my left heel.
With peppers, onions.
Circadian health. More importantly, we're going to be talking about your circadian. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the MME YouTube channel, where we're here to help you develop a healthy mind to keep your body aligned. My name is Tyler Egan, and I will be your wellness mentor and educator for today's video. And in today's video, we're actually going to start. You can see the topic is up there. We're going to talk about rewiring the mind versus rewiring the nervous system, but it's like 95 degrees out. The sun is beating right on my face. I have really bad lighting in my apartment, so we're filming it out here, and I'm sweating bullets. So I'm going to start by hydrating. And cheers, y'all. And can I say, the downside to the mustache is everything gets caught in it. I had ketchup in it for like an hour earlier. Didn't even realize it. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so in today's video, we're going to talk about rewiring the mind versus rewiring the nervous system. And this is such a fascinating topic because the two you really can't separate all that much. Like the nervous system is essentially the connection between your brain and the rest of your body, and your mind is your brain in action. So we're going to separate them, but you really kind of can't. They are integrated together. So you'll see what I mean as we get along here. The way that this video is going to work is we're going to discuss what rewiring the mind is, a brief understanding of it for anybody who may be new to this topic. What I mean when I talk about rewiring the nervous system, okay? We're going to talk about like the what, the why, and the how behind those things. Then we're going to discuss the mechanism at play behind rewiring both of these. And then last but not least, I want to talk about that missing link, that missing piece that rewiring just the mind alone offers. There's a limitation to that, and I want to get to that point. There will be timestamps down below, so if you don't really care about understanding differences and whatnot, and you just want to get to that missing piece because you're like, I need something now, bro, come on, chop. You can go down to the timestamps down below, and you can fast forward right ahead to that. If you take anything from this video, if you like what we're putting out there, if you gain any value from this, if it helps you at all, please, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a like, comment, and if you are really feeling ambitious, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we post a video. We put out weekly videos to help you on your wellness journey. There's so much freaking information out there, and when I embarked on my own personal journey, I was always confused. And I don't know if our content will be able to relieve you of your own confusion, but I at least want to offer some guidance along the way. So let's get into this. Let's start by discussing rewiring the mind. And you know what brought this video on is we did a video a few weeks back talking about rewiring your mind, right? We talked about your identity, your values, and your beliefs. And that is a very important step on your healing journey, on your wellness journey, on this journey of transformation. But there's a limitation to it. And again, we're going to get to that towards the end here. So rewiring the mind. What are we talking about here? What we're talking about when we talk about rewiring your mind is reshaping thoughts, beliefs, right? Because beliefs are just thoughts we continuously think. That's a really badass. Opinions and judgments, which these two are more or less the same thing, but I want to separate those out because I feel like opinions are usually viewed as the lesser of the two evils. Anyway, that's a topic for a different day. So what we're talking about when we're talking about rewiring your mind is reshaping the way you think, the beliefs that you have, the thoughts you continuously think, maybe opinions and judgments that you have about things that you do or activities that you want to embark on. Like if you want to start working out in the gym, you may have judgments that all gym people are vain or something like that. Right? So like if you want to rewire your mind, you want to start to shift those judgments, because I guess the question would be is, if that's you in this instance, do you want to have that kind of judgment about yourself as you embark on this new journey? So that's rewiring the mind. We're reshaping our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, and our judgments, right? So So that's what we're doing. Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to do this? And I think this is a really important question to look into, is like, well, why do I want to rewire my mind? Negative self-talk. My inner voice in my mind was very critical, very self-defeating, self-defeating. Like I always say, like I had an inner shit-talking hater in my head, because it was never anything that I never encouraged myself. The voice in my head was very, belittling. It was like I have a roommate in my mind, and that roommate is a piece of shit. So, and I mean that very lovingly right now. So I recognized I had so much negative self-talk, so much critical thinking about myself, so much self-defeating self-talk. I'm like, okay, I want to change this. And I started to learn more about rewiring the mind and stuff like that. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. And so if you're here still and you're watching, this may speak to you, right? Like if this speaks to you right now, drop it in the comment down below. Why do you want to rewire your mind? What is the conversation in your head like? Because mine was always negative, and it was very challenging to go through the day with this inner shit-talking hater in my head. So that's why I decided to start rewiring my mind. And so why do we want to do it? Work negative self-talk, have more encouraging thoughts, more positive thinking, right? If you have a lot of to go with the self-talk, like I can remove the self-talk. I just was a very negative thinking person, right? Very pessimistic. And I still have that to some degree, but it's not overwhelming and all-consuming anymore. So that's why you want to rewire the mind, is because we want to get rid of some of that negativity, some of that negative self-talk, the inner critic, that self-defeating way of thinking, right? So then how can we do this? How do we rewire the mind? There's a few different ways you can approach this. You know, when we're talking about rewiring the mind, we're doing mostly like cognitive things. We're working on like journaling, some of the things I mentioned in the intro, journaling, meditation, and this will kind of compound with visualization, right? We're using the mind as a tool, right? Let's look at it like that for a minute. If we want to rewire the mind, we want to use the mind as the tool it is. What was the other one I said? Affirmations, right? So like, you know, I used to, one of my affirmations when I got started was, I'm a loser. Deadass, I've shared this a few times. I'm a loser. I had this constant negative perception of myself that I was a loser. That one like thought had subsections of thoughts around my mind that like, I'm never going to be good enough, I'm unworthy, I suck, all these different things. And so I started to shift my negative self-talk with affirmations by saying like, you know, I am awesome, I'm the shit. Like, what are some of the things I actually said all the time? I shared this somewhere before. I'm unstoppable, I'm unbeatable, I'm undeniable. Every time I hop in the cold shower, I would say that to myself. And now I'll be in the middle of a workout and that thought pops up randomly, out of nowhere. I just hear it. I'm like, look at you go, bro. So that's rewiring the mind, right? Brief recap, and then we'll move into the nervous system. We're reshaping our thoughts, beliefs, opinions / judgments, right? Why do we want to do this? We got some negative self-talk, self-defeating, critical, just like pure, straight up negativity, right? No matter who you're around, maybe you're judgmental, you're mean, you're harsh, whatever it is. That's why we want to work on rewiring the mind. So then, how do we do this? Through journaling, we do this through meditation, visualization, affirmations. One more thing I want to add in here, reframing. Again, they all kind of can work together. So you could take a situation that you had, like a negative situation at work, and you can reframe it in your mind, and you can do that through journaling. You know, you can, you know, Sally Sue Pants from work was a bitch today, but I learned this from it. So now you're reframing the situation in your mind, and you can do that in journaling. So you write it down. Okay, so that's rewiring the mind, reshaping thoughts, beliefs, opinions, all those things. We want to do this because we got negative self-talk, critical self-talk, self-defeating self-talk, and how? Journaling, meditation, visualization, affirmations, and reframing our situation. So that's reframing the mind, or sorry, that is rewiring the mind. We're not reframing the mind. The mind is already framed in a wild circus of a thing we call life. So now let's move on to rewiring the nervous system. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about when we're talking about rewiring the nervous system? Well, what we're talking about here is that connection between your brain to your body, rewiring the nervous system. God, this is where the nerd in me just wants to come out and start throwing all of the fancy terminology out there. But we're not gonna do that. We're keeping this simple and effective. All right, so rewiring the nervous system. Like I said, we're talking about this connection between your brain down to your body. So when we're talking about rewiring your nervous system, we're talking about your body's automatic or let me say it differently, reshape your body's automatic or habitual responses. And I'll actually throw another word in here because it might speak to some of you even more. Reactions, right? So we're reshaping the body's automatic or habitual, better yet, reactions, right? So you have a coworker who triggers you, and it flares up a same traumatic pattern from when you were a child that maybe never fully healed, and so you just lash out, you flip out on them, you get nasty, mean, whatever it is, or maybe better yet, you don't get nasty or mean, you just shut down, you get quiet, you don't do anything at all. Maybe you just go home. You know what I mean? And that's just your reaction. That's your body's reaction. It just shuts down. It happens to me all the time when I'm filming these videos. I get nervous sometimes, and then before I start the video, I don't know what to say. And it's like I have notes. I typed up an outline before I even got started here so I could work on what I wanted to say. And my brain completely shuts down because I have a automatic response or reaction, you know, the fight or flight response system within the nervous system. I have one that is there's fight, flight, and then there's flee. No, is it flee? I forget what they call it. Maybe it's fawn or something like that, where you essentially just shut down. You don't fight anything, you don't run away, you just completely shut down. And that happens to me sometimes, right? So every time I work on one of these videos, I actually am reshaping my body's response because it gets easier and easier to film these things. So we talk about rewiring the nervous system, we're talking about reshaping our body's automatic responses, our body's automatic responses. So then why would we want to do that, right? Why would we want to reshape our body's responses? I don't need to get down yet. Why are we doing this? Well, maybe we have some trauma. We want to heal trauma from previous parts of our life, whether it's childhood trauma from last year or 3 months ago, 6 years ago, whenever it was. You know, there's trauma with a big T, trauma with a little t, the traumas that really like leave a very everlasting, almost an impression within our mind. And then there's the minor traumas, like when you go to the gym and work out. Make no mistake about it, you're traumatizing, I'm gonna put this in quotes, traumatizing your body, because you're putting your body under a tremendous amount of stress, depending on how you train, I suppose. But you're putting your body under stress, which is traumatizing it. But this is how the nervous system works. We expose the nervous system to stimulation, and then through nutrition, through sleep, through positive encouragement, rewiring the mind, stuff like that, we can then allow our body to heal, reshape itself, our mind and body, and then our body now will respond in a more effective manner, maybe a more positive manner, if that's what we're going for, or it'll just allow us to show up better. But why we want to do this is because maybe we want to heal old trauma. Right? The mind is very limited when it comes to healing old trauma, right? The mind is very limited when it comes to healing trauma because your body stores that energy. So if you want to heal trauma, if you want to heal, here's another reason why we're very reactive, right? I shared that word up here, very reactive. The mind is very limited when it comes to healing these or shifting our reactivity. So we have to rework the nervous system to really embody the new state of being we wish to live our life by, right? If we don't want to be reactive from old traumatic patterns, then we have to rewire the nervous system so that feeling, that response, that way of being, that way of showing up in the world is an embodiment that we show up with every single day, right? So the reason we do this is because we want to work on old trauma and heal trauma. We want to be maybe less reactive, and what rewiring the nervous system does, which goes hand in hand with these, which I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but which rewiring the mind doesn't, is it allows us to reset our body's response system, or I'll just say responses, right? So maybe you're having a conversation with somebody at work or a family member and they trigger you, and your normal reaction is to, again, it could be shut down or it could be very aggressive, right? But you don't want to be either one of those things. Maybe you want to be more calm, level-headed, and just have a conversation with somebody. If you disagree with them, cool. I just want to have a civil disagreement. Awesome. But because this trauma pattern or this reactive pattern is stuck within the body, you've done all the mind work, but it's still not enough to allow you to show up in a calm and level-headed manner at work or at home or in the conversation we mentioned. It's because your body's still storing that energy. So we want to reset the body's response system, and we can only do that through rewiring the nervous system. Okay, so now I want to move on to, wait, no, I almost forgot. Okay, so just imagine it says rewire the nervous system there. The last thing I wanted to hit on here is how. So how are some of the ways that we do this? Now, these are going to be things like we did a video on breath work a few weeks back. We should have a couple videos up on breath work. There'll be a link down below if you want to check those out. But breath work is one way. These practices are going to be more mind and body experiences. I think I might have just spelled breath work wrong. If I did, be nice in the comments. So breath work, I mean, training, you know, working out. Because think about it, in all these scenarios, training, breath work, heat and cold exposure, in all these scenarios, what we're doing is we are intentionally exposing the body to extreme, depending on the circumstances, but we are intentionally exposing the body to extreme amounts of stress. Tapping, this is a little bit more, less extreme. Yeah, and then so in those moments, you intentionally, consciously choose to do breath work. So we do, right? So like when I'm breathing like that, like it imitates almost what it is like when you're hyperventilating. So right now I can feel the brain chemicals, the arousal of the brain, the stress brain chemicals, and I can consciously choose to listen to my mind, all the chatter, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing in my body. I feel the hip tightness that I usually almost always get when I'm under stress, and I can relax myself back down. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching my body through breath work how to relax and not be so high strung under those stressful situations, right? So we can do this through training, heat and cold exposure, tapping, all these different things, but these are more integrative mind and body experiences because the nervous system is that connection between the brain and the body. Okay, so those are some of those things. Man, I am sweating bullets out here. It is so toasty. It's this right here, I am probably rewiring my nervous system to love sweat even more. Just kidding. Well, I mean, I'm actually kind of not. The sauna has done that for me. So what's the mechanism behind this? This is the part for like some of more of my nerds out there. If you really like to understand the science more, and if you're still watching this, you probably already know this, is neuroplasticity. Plasticity. Man, spelling was never my strong suit. So what is neuroplasticity? For anybody who doesn't know, I'm going to keep this brief. Maybe I should, if you want to see a whole video on neuroplasticity, drop a comment down below. Or actually, I just remembered this. We have a podcast. Now, the podcast there hasn't been a new podcast episode in a while. I'll put a link down below. There's about like 150 episodes. Back when we started the podcast, we did an episode all about neuroplasticity. Check that out. There actually might be a YouTube video up for that. I gotta find that. If I do, there will be a link down below, but the podcast link will definitely be down below. So what is neuroplasticity? Well, neuroplasticity is essentially, so let's break this word down, neuro, right? Neuro refers to the brain, and then plasticity is just plastic. Right? Your brain is plastic. And we don't mean that like literally. It's not like your brain is a PDA-free plastic piece of hardware in your mind or in your head. No. It's like the word just means that your brain is malleable like plastic, kind of how they can make plastic into water bottles. There's probably plastic in this thing for all I know. The markers, I'm imagining they're encased in plastic. You know, plastic is very malleable. We use it for so many different things in our society. So it's like your brain is also plastic, meaning it can reshape itself. It can rewire itself. And again, this is important for both the mind and the nervous system because the nervous system is, that connection between the two. So it's the brain's ability to reshape, reorganize, and rewire itself. Now, the thing I want to emphasize with this, y'all, is this requires practice. You know, we talked about rewiring the nervous system, rewiring the mind, all the practices you can do, the journaling, meditation, the breath work. They're all great, but they have to become integrative practices within your daily life. You need to practice them, maybe not daily, but as much as you can. It might start off with like once a week at first, and then eventually gets to once a day. But it requires constant and consistent practice, because if you're 35 years old and you have had a negative self-talk your whole life, like I was, when I recognized this, I was 27 or something like that. I mean, we were talking about 27 years of life where I was just self-defeating, inner critical voice, very negative, all these things, pessimistic, all that shit. And I mean, I was working on undoing 27 years of negative self-talk. So you have to give yourself time. That's why a lot of our videos, we talk about meeting yourself where you're at. Please meet yourself where you're at. If you're gonna start some of these practices, if you wanna start to rewire your nervous system, which I highly recommend if you wanna heal trauma and really expand your consciousness, then please meet yourself where you're at and give yourself an adequate amount of time. Whatever that ends up being. So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reshape, reorganize, and rewire itself when we expose it to the proper stimulation, right? Everything that we consume on a daily basis, even as I'm sharing this information. I might be sharing this information, taking it from my mind, putting it on the board, but I am also consuming the information right now because I'm writing it down. I'm actually putting it in different colors so it speaks to me differently. Like I hear the birds chirping around me, the cars driving by, right? I can feel the heat of the sun right now. This is all stimulation. And all the stimulation is information for our brain. And so if we look at it that way for a moment, the way I am viewing my perception of the heat of the sun is, if I consistently think that all the time, right? We talked about thoughts and beliefs earlier. If I consistently think about the sun and how it's making me sweat and how much I hate it and it sucks and blah, and I think that every single day, every single summer when it's hot and I'm sweating, then that's going to turn into a belief, and that thought is going to dictate my perception on the summer, right? And so last summer, ironically enough, I spent a lot of time working out outside, a lot of time in the sauna, and it completely rewired my mind around my perception of the heat and sweat. And I'm like, sweat is actually your body's way of detoxifying, and I actually found gratitude for that. And gratitude was a practice that I never had before. Let me just say that negative self-talk never came with gratitude. So neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape, reorganize, and rewire itself. Water break, baby. Cheers, y'all. I'm hoping you're hydrating with me. All right. Now let's move into the last section, which is why might be the main reason why you're here, if you're still following me here. And that is that missing piece we talked about, that key. And I've already alluded to it in a lot of ways, but why rewiring the mind is not enough is the mind is very limited. Limitations of the mind. Your mind is very limited in how it can heal trauma and how it can rewire itself. Like, the mind is a fantastic tool. It's amazing. It is a great tool. Wait, hold on. There's a Ram Dass quote. He said the ego, but I'm going to use the mind in this case. The mind is a great servant, but a lousy master, right? It is very limited when it comes to healing trauma. And so if we just work on rewiring our mind, we are completely neglecting the rewiring, in this case, of the body. Your body is where your trauma is stored. Your body is where your emotional wounds are stored. I'm going to let that sit there for a minute. Your mind is limited because your body tells the true story, because that's where the emotional trauma, the physical trauma, the mental trauma is being stored at. That energy is stuck somewhere in here, right? If we just work on rewiring the mind, what this could lead to is we just remove triggers. So maybe you get a new job because everybody at your old job was toxic. Maybe you switch careers because you thought your old career wasn't your whatever, because it was triggering and it brought up a lot of old emotional trauma, right? Whatever it is, you remove a trigger. You stop hanging out with that person. You break up with the girl or the boy. You move cities, right? You stop talking to your family. You remove the trigger and you feel at ease, right? You start to rewire your mind. And again, there's a level of that is very necessary. I'm not diminishing that, not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't move away. I'm not saying don't leave the job. I'm not saying don't break up with the girl or the boy. Like, totally do what you got to do. But again, if we just focus on the level of the mind, there's a lot of limitations because it does not address the body. It does not address the body. So you can remove all of the triggers in your life, every single one of them. You can go live on the moon by yourself with all of the basic fundamental human needs that you have to survive, right? But then what happens when you reintroduce that trigger? What happens when you reintroduce the trigger? You didn't actually address the trigger. You just removed it out of sight, out of mind, because it doesn't actually address the root of it all. Rewiring the nervous system bypasses the limitations of the mind because you have to start to feel into what's in here. It's connecting with the energetic body within you so you can start to heal and, more importantly, hear the voice of that inner child that is wounded and hurting and feels unseen and unloved. And you can start to address that so that the triggers don't trigger you. You can hang out with that person, be around that guy, be around that girl, be in a toxic environment, and it doesn't faze you because you've rewired your nervous system to be adaptive to stressful situations. So when we talk about rewiring the mind and rewiring the nervous system, if we're talking about this from the lens of healing trauma, we're talking about the nervous system. Now, again, rewiring the mind has its place. Definitely do it if you're there right now. But rewiring the nervous system is that key. So I'm going to wrap this video up there and drop a marker. Thank you all so much for tuning in today's video. And if at the end there, you know, as I share it, I hear this voice in my own head about being slightly concerned of triggering somebody by some of the things I say. And if you're still here and you're still listening to me, I want to invite you to just be with your own triggers for a moment. And I'm also saying this for myself right now, because I have a worry that I'm going to trigger people and bother them, and they're not going to want to learn from me anymore. And I have to sit here and be with that, because that is a part of my own healing journey. So I want to invite you to join me in holding that space for our own triggers, our own wounds, and start to rewire our nervous system to teach that inner child that it's okay. If you guys took anything from this video, please, I would appreciate it if you could leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel. If you're really audacious, click that, what do they call it, the notification bell? Yeah. Drop a comment if there's anything you learned, you could help somebody stick around for the video a little bit longer, realizing that they might learn something from this too, you know, whatever actually ends up happening. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.
So the rope touches my left heel.
with peppers, onions.
Circadian health. More importantly, we're going to be talking about your circadian rhythm.